Awesome. Well, this is really exciting. And we're going to have a great conversation together about how staff work is changing and how space can better support that work into the future. So, hello, how are you all doing today? All right, here we go. So, I've had the good fortune to help more than 1 million students by working with more than 100 colleges and universities understand and improve their spaces, their services, their staff, their structures, their systems, and the strategy that drives all that, which is 6 different S's if you're counting. And and then more recently, I've had the chance to distill all that into insights around working better together to enable student success in the connected college, which is an evidence-based, encouraging playbook for leaders in higher ed within the library and beyond to break down silos and connect courses to careers and connect students to support and connect students to community so they feel a sense of belonging and to work better together internally and externally to make that happen. And I'm really excited to share some of those lessons with all of you because as we think about the role of the library into the future, one of the big things that's changing is student success by any measure. If we look at Google search volume, just in the last 5 years alone, it's more than doubled, which to me is a really great thing because it means we're having a conversation about how libraries can help students succeed. And there are so many ways, right? Of course it's the outcomes like retention, like graduation, like career placement, like engagement in the workforce. But it's also all the things that libraries do to get to those outcomes, helping students feel a sense of belonging, connecting them to support, connecting careers and clubs and coursework through things like experiential learning, imagining libraries as hubs for experiential learning. And so today, together, we really want to think about this question and maybe come up with some answers of our own. As libraries become hubs for student success, and you might argue they were always hubs for student success, but now we just have better words to talk about it, or we can talk about them in a better way. What does that mean for how staff work, the services you provide, how you're structured, how spaces support that? And that's really what we're going to answer today, not only drawing on me sort of going broad and Greg going deep, or the science and the art, whatever pairing you're into, um, but also to tap the collective wisdom in the room. So we'll have some opportunities for discussion, we'll have some polls, we'll have some opportunities to turn to your neighbor. So if you don't like who you're sitting with, now is a really good time to change. And no offense. You can just say you have to get a drink or something, you need a drink of water. But so we're going to think together. And as we think together about how staff work is changing and how space can better support that work into the future, I think a really key part of this is that the programming that libraries do is changing. And it's changing in lots of ways because naturally, as you try and support student success, you're going to be doing more than a one-shot instruction section, right? You're going to be creating events and programs, and it might be for specific communities, it might be around specific topics, right? So it might be programming for first-gen students like at University of San Diego, or it might be programming around mindfulness and well-being like we heard yesterday at Miami and elsewhere. And my guess is, as you're doing new kinds of programming, you're also working with new kinds of partners. And I think libraries have been partnering forever, really. And it maybe started with IT, right? We brought IT into the library and we got, voila, the information commons. Then we brought in other learning support services, tutoring, writing, voila, we got the learning commons. And now as you think about student success, you're maybe expanding the scope of that, and you're thinking about advising, you're thinking about counseling, you're thinking about career development. About 20 minutes down the road at St. John's Fisher University, they're opening a renovated Lavery library, which we had the good fortune to work on with Halt Architects, thinking through the service model. And one of the things I'm really excited about that is career services is in the library um, as a key partner, because as you're trying to think about connecting courses and careers, which by the way doesn't mean you're doing vocational training, because it might be very well the way that a student finds belonging is through a career path, right? As you're doing that, career services can be a key partner. And so as you're offering new programs and you're working with new partners, the interesting thing is people start to play new roles. And if you think back 10 years maybe, the new role was the UX librarian. I don't know if I remember a time when there were all like five, like Michigan had one, NC State had one. Nice job, Greg. And yeah, um, and now that's, having a UX and assessment function within the library is pretty much standard, right? Sometimes it's one person or a small group of folks like fighting the good fight. Other times it's a whole full-fledged department. And I think the student success librarian is kind of like that, right? If you look on LinkedIn, there's about 100 student success librarians. And this student success means lots of different things, so they can play lots of different roles. On some campuses that might be about OER. Other times it might be a kind of a coordinator function to rally all these different partners and get them aligned. Other times it might be this cross-cutting function to look at services and staffing and spaces through the lens of student success. But either way, to do new things, people are going to be playing new roles, and they're probably going to be using new technology to do it. And I think we made it 8 minutes in before talking about AI, so I'm proud of us. But now feels like the right time, because it's definitely a tool that can help people be people, right? It can help human to human interaction, because it can free up time to do the things that robots, frankly, are good at, and humans maybe not so much, and free up time to engage with students, faculty, and staff. It can also unlock new forms of creativity, helping us create things in ways that we couldn't before. It's also a set of tools and a set of competencies that students are going to encounter in the workplace. And so it's a way for libraries to model that and showcase that and adopt that and create that AI fluency. And it may be a kind of a bottom-up library-led thing, like Kareem at the article on the left, Inside Higher Ed, is about a bottom-up initiative that Kareem's been doing, first at University of Rhode Island, now at Stony Brook, Kareem and team. The library really driving the conversation on AI. It could be more top-down, like UF, right, where they're infusing AI into the curriculum and seeing it as their secret sauce, which may be why some education secretaries are referring to it as A1. I don't know if anybody gets that reference, but I'm hoping you do. And then the library can play a role in supporting that adoption. And the interesting thing is, those new tools are also helping us better understand and plan and use spaces. And an interesting thing happened, I think, in terms of user experience, because for a long time, the digital user experience leapfrogged the physical one, because the digital world was much easier to measure, much easier to track someone's journey through a website or an app than it is through a space. And so we kind of got leapfrogged, but there's hope, because now there are great ways to measure how people use spaces and pair that with services. It could be pulling, the data exhaust from your Wi-Fi routers. It could, or your lighting occupancy sensors. It could be installing new sensors. And this gives us a much richer picture about what people need, what they're doing to meet those needs. And I think that's really exciting. A couple of years ago, we had a chance to work with a company called OccuSpace, and we got anonymized sensor data from 38 campuses over 3 years and found some interesting patterns. One was that, maybe confirming your intuition, but if you have a lot of classrooms near your library, that drives usage. It makes sense, right? You come out of class and you go to the library to work on the project, we hope. If you have a nearby student union, it has the opposite effect. It sucks students out of the library, especially at meal times, which is probably okay because you probably don't want to serve a full meal amongst the stacks or in a study space. So, but we also found that satellite libraries are used about 40% less. We found basically no correlation between print volumes on site and visitation. I think the correlation was 0.21. But we did find that when libraries offered student success functions like writing, like tutoring, like advising, like counseling, like career, they're used 20 to 25% more at peak times. So as we think about experiences into the future, we know that they're not physical or digital, they're phygital, right? If you permit that portmanteau. But now we have much better ways of measuring it and meeting the needs. And as you're meeting those needs, when you're offering new programs and working with new partners and playing new roles, you might need a new structure to deliver on that. Has anybody been in the elevator going up the St. Louis Arch? A couple people, yeah. So, it's a great story, by the way. They couldn't get any kind of national company to bid on that. Like Otis didn't want to touch it. So it was like some guy in his garage figured out how to create these pods that go up around a curve. And so you step into this pod, and as you go up, you start to kind of lean over. And then right as you're about to fall out of your seat, it kind of resets and corrects. And that's kind of how libraries work, right? Whether it's your master plan or your org chart, you have to reset because most org charts start off, they're about the physical acquisition, processing, cataloging of books. And then new functions have come along, like, oh, digital scholarship, what's that? Or you have things like branches, and branches are sort of a microcosm of all the other functions. So you have sort of like inception of functions within your org chart, and it becomes kind of recursive. And so I think as libraries adapt to change, as you embrace student success, as you support research, it's probably time to take a look at your structure as well as your staff space. And when you do, really think about the services you offer. And there's some folks in the room, shout out to Jerome and team, that we got to work with, along with Derek, I saw earlier, Derek from Perkins and Will, on a master plan for Miami University, where in order to rethink the structure, we first took a step back and redesigned the services. So we thought about the services to be offered, and then, crazy idea, we grouped the staff according to the services. I know that sounds like an obvious thing, but you'd be surprised how infrequently that happens. And so what you get is a lot of committees, a lot of task forces, right? I see a lot of people nodding. Task forces and committees generally mean that the groups that people are in aren't working for them. They're not helping them do their work. So if you can get those better aligned, and you can read more about it in the case study and Leading Change, you can better support students and help them succeed. So that gives you kind of the broad overview of how libraries are responding to student success. And we're now going to enter the Think, Pair, Share portion of our program. So get ready to do those three things in that order, by the way. So, and this session is very introvert friendly. So you get a chance to think before you get put on the spot. And the first way Greg and I would like you to think about this is to take this poll, and you can take it by, I'll make the QR code bigger. Or you can go to polev.com/Elliot Felix 670. That's a randomly assigned number, by the way. Don't assign any importance to it. But we want to know, what are the three biggest factors that are reshaping your work? Is it demographic shifts? Is it external partnerships and consortia? Is it financial uncertainty? Is it generative AI? Is it internal collaborations within the library? Is it leadership change? Is it new structures, new roles, new regulations? So what's changing how you do your work? And I think the first 100 people get to vote, so you could be one of those lucky people. And it looks like, it certainly looks like financial uncertainty is a big driver. Probably could have predicted that. Leadership change, pulling in at a strong number two.
One dragon behind it.
So we've got regulatory changes and demographic shifts kind of as the lagging indicators. Maybe we already know about the demographic shifts and the regulatory changes. Maybe we've already responded to those. I was talking to someone just before this session about digital access and Title II changes, if I've got that right. So that was the think portion. You just all thought. I don't know if that was clear, but now just take a few minutes, take like 2-3 minutes to just chat about what's changing your work with a neighbor at your table, and then after that we'll call on a few people who want to volunteer what they talked about. We're not going to do the verbatim report out, so don't worry. We're just going to kind of sprinkle in some ideas, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. And then I just went broad. Greg's going to go deep next. Okay, begin.